What's going on, everybody? It's a Ken Braverman podcast. You can definitely do a daily Ken Braverman podcast. That's what I would like to do with my time. You should always ask yourself, like, if I had all the free time in the world and the resources, what would I do? I would talk about what I see and communicate with other people about it. I don't know that is what I enjoy doing the most. I always thought that doing what Adam Carolla did on Loveline was quite possibly the greatest job in the world. Laugh and learn late at night with a doctor and troubled teenagers. I mean, is there anything better? He was great at it. And I wanted to do what he did. Well, that was 25 years ago. Yeah, it's like 25 years ago and then some. And things have changed now. And Adam's still around doing daily content. You've got to give the man credit. He's still putting out content, even if he's not doing Reasonable Doubt and CarCast and stuff like that. So he has a thread today, and I bashed him hard yesterday in a different thread about Fox News. Today I'll try to be more kind because you got to be well-rounded in your assessment of people. We do not live in a binary universe, even though our brains like to work in binary and just think something is good or bad. Guess who's on the phone? Here we go. Why, hello there. You're on a Ken Braverman podcast.
Hello, this is, what's my name?
You can be whoever you want to be.
Oh, I guess I'm BabyButters then.
Okay, good. Yeah, I almost called you what I have you in my phone as, which is not BabyButters. Welcome. I'm actually in. Yeah. So we're with BabyButters. She just sent me a text message that was so graphic in nature that I couldn't help but laugh. Fantastic. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. And I'm in the Greg Fitzsimmons thread.
Yes.
On the subreddit. And I'm also working on a whole other thing, like I mentioned before, because we talked a minute ago. All right, so I'm in Greg Fitzsimmons, and of course I see comments by you. And by the way, it's the font is super huge because I am actually not even wearing my glasses or contacts because I'm a moron and I put sandpaper on my glasses lens and can't get it off. So trying to look through my glasses is like looking through an aquarium. So
they put sandpaper on it.
I watched YouTube and I'm a retard. I saw this guy go, here, if you put some grit sandpaper, you'll get your scratch out of your lenses, and you put polish on it, you'll be fine. Well, I did it on a plastic lens, so I am retarded. I scratched up, I believe, a plastic lens with sandpaper. And
it wasn't one of your better moments.
No, that's one of my standard moments in life. So I'm going contact, and because my contacts are super old, and I'm waiting to get cataract surgery, so I didn't get a new prescription yet. My life's a disaster. Anyway, how you doing?
Pretty good.
You are? I'm sorry I couldn't make it out West Coast like I was planning on, but I will get out there eventually. I swear.
Oh, yeah. We'll see. No rush.
All right. Now, anyway, I was in the Greg Fitzsimmons thread, and you're saying great episode. You're essentially the target demographic for this show at this point. You watch Fox News. You've been with him forever. You do say good things. You wanted Gina gone and she was gone. You do understand you did that, right? They listened to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't really watch, but I watch Fox on social media. I don't sit down and watch. I don't have TV right now.
Yeah, I know.
But I'll follow. I like, my boy Ben Shapiro. I like him.
My boy Ben Shapiro. You and Sonny Carolla like Ben Shapiro. It's good.
Yeah, I was irritated with him though because he has Daily Wire, and it took me a while to figure out how to cancel my. I got a subscription just for a few weeks because I wanted to see this one documentary they did, and it took me a while to figure out how to cancel my subscription.
Oh yeah, I know they're really good at making it complicated. They are they're the Girls Gone Wild of 2023. If you've ever accidentally purchased Girls Gone Wild, we had a buddy back in college that bought the Girls Gone Wild video, and he was complaining about them charging his credit card for months afterward. It was the funniest thing. Yeah, they can be bad. Yeah. They can be bad with that.
I just sort of connected in a weird. Well, that's a tangent, but the guy I lost my virginity to.
Whoa.
He worked security. He worked what do you call it? he was like a security guard or bodyguard for the creator of Girls Gone Wild.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah. Whoa. Wow, that is weird.
You wouldn't expect it though, because he was kind of short. He's about 5'6" or so, but
all
yeah.
right, so we're doing math. I'm doing math right now. I'm like, all right, virginity lost. Was he working for Girls Gone Wild while he was taking your virginity?
No, that was
Did,
it was
did
probably
you
about
go wild? Did you go wild?
he was all right back then. Well, I mean, I think back, it felt good. He was my first, but I mean, thinking to the best I've ever had, no. I mean, he doesn't measure up to the best I've ever had. It felt good, but
Okay. So, wow. Okay, I'm
I
pulling
was
this.
like, oh, this might be interesting, and then
It
I brought
is.
that
It
up.
is very interesting, actually. I'm trying.
Okay.
All right, let me get back to math for a second. So, let's see here. Lost your virginity. Trying to get a year on when your virginity evaporated, and I'm
Oh well, I was a late bloomer, so
yeah, I know. Trying to take
yeah,
everything
yeah.
into account. Hmm. How about 2003?
Um, that's pretty damn close. Is it 2003 or four?
Yeah, yeah, I was there.
I was
Nice.
you weren't there. No,
No,
I was almost 23, so
yeah,
it was 1981 plus 23.
yeah.
What would that be? Is
That's
that
so. I have to admit, this is actually complicated. It makes me want to open up Excel. Um, yeah, which I have open on the computer right now. Yeah,
is that
1981.
2004?
1981 is actually a year. So well, we're not going to put your exact birth date in. I'm just going to go 1/1/81. All right.
Yeah, I don't want to give my
No,
actual
no, no,
birthday.
no. But this goes to the math part.
Okay,
So, do you know the exact day you lost your virginity?
I think I do.
How would you know that? I cannot
I
remember. I can't
I
remember the
think
day. I can remember the place. Remember the
yeah.
woman? Can't remember the day. Can't remember the year either.
You remember? Do you remember? You remember the woman?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I was gonna say
She was a gymnast actually. She was a
nice.
long-term girlfriend. I was also a late bloomer. I could figure out what year this is actually.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I know the date, and because it's this. I think it's the same date that I hired in. Well, not the same year, but the same date that I hired into Disneyland. Um, yeah. So there's just certain dates that like
Well,
stand out to me.
all right,
You know,
we're getting too into the
like I
weeds.
remember when
23. Yeah.
I like when my dogs died, like Butters, one of my dogs, he died. I think it was March 16th of 2017. I
Yeah,
remember
it's
that.
easier to remember death dates sometimes. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, that is a good tangent. Losing your virginity is something we should all know, and understand.
Yeah, we
Late
can talk
bloomers
more
too.
about it later if you want to move on. I mean, no, we don't. Whatever you think's entertaining. I trust your judgment.
No, 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 you are spot on. Definitely enthralled by that. And I think because I think a lot of us that browse this board and would find this podcast are coming from the same cloth of wanting to hear stories that are a little too personal and enjoying
Yeah,
it, right? I think that's what
yeah.
we're for. But I thought of you not only because you sent me a graphic text, but also that because I was looking at your comments and I'm like, yeah, you should get responded to. So you caught Adam complaining about the news media, complaining about Sizemore's drug history while reporting his death, and then Corolla doing exactly the same thing by just got done telling Sizemore that he was doing coke in his bathroom the last time he saw him. I don't remember that. When did you hear that? When did Corolla say that?
Oh, he did it. It was today's episode.
Yeah, because you caught it in today's episode. So
Yeah, it was towards the beginning, and
yeah.
like less than 5 minutes before that, he was saying, oh yeah, Sizemore's a nice guy. I had him in here a couple times. The last time he was in here, he had powder all over his nose, and he said he spilled talcum power, and then I think Max Pattis said like, "Are you sure it was?" And he's like, "Well, that's what he said, and it was like kind of it was implied that it wasn't, that it was coke.
Right. Now but he was also doing the other side of that argument, which is complaining about the news media bringing up Sizemore's drugs. Is that?
Yeah, because it said, they reported him, and then I don't know who brought it up exactly, but one of them said it's sad that they have to say he was troubled, and then Adam agreed, or he said something like, yeah, they don't need to do that. They don't need to say like, oh, he had a drug history. Just say he
Yeah.
he was a great actor. And
I don't know. Yeah, you want to provide consolation to people who don't live their lives that fast and hard, and you want to always think that, oh, that person died younger than they should because they were overutilizing their heart, pumping it with cocaine too much to the point. I don't know what he died of, but I've never done cocaine ever. It's the one drug that keeps getting brought up in weird instances that I've always been like, nah, I've actually never done coke, and I have no desire to, because I've heard about the heart issue, and I thought, like that's I don't want to try to hit that high on my body. I don't want to whatever. So I don't know what he died of.
People talk. I've done weed. That's the craziest thing I've done.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I've heard smart people say, like my brother once, I know I've heard a couple people say it, but my brother said, I don't want to try cocaine because either I'm not going to like it or I'm really going to like it, and it's not worth it.
Yeah, it just keeps getting, it's one of those that I definitely think I'm in the minority of like my friends and stuff who hasn't ever tried it. There's some friends I know that have never ever tried it and never would try any stuff. But there's, the ones that the ones that, like, I've had a mushroom or two too, even though I don't really ever search that one out. Like that one I'll try for a little bit because I've heard, or people always push it on me. I don't know. So it's weird.
Oh yeah, it's like they say it's good for people with
depression,
mental health issues.
Right. Gonna do some type of brain rewiring or opening up of things or something. Yeah, it's a good biochemical question. Kind of like, what is it about the psilocybin or whatever is in there that I probably just said wrong? That does that.
If you heard a hippie say that 10 years ago, you're like, all right, hippie. But now people are like, no, really, the scientific community is like, no, there's something to that,
Yeah,
so
no, adjusting brain chemistry and introducing some type of chemical, whether it be biological or synthetic, will do different things to your brain. And if you think about what depression is, one of the things that I always learned about depression and about what happens to the brain and memory as well is that your hippocampus, or that part of your brain, I believe, is supposedly in charge of a lot of memories, and it will shrink when it's not being used and you're depressed. And if you think of depression as kind of like a cold area of non-emotional things going off that you want to go off in the brain, and so it's like stagnant and dull as opposed to active, then you shrink when things get less active. For example, just the nature of atoms. With the colder you get, the atoms move, or the electrons and stuff move around slower, bouncing around and vibrating, and technically at a theoretical amount of 0 Kelvin, which is where all mass stops vibrating completely, which is a theoretical temperature we've never actually seen in practice. That the colder it gets, the smaller your hippocampus would get, and therefore the more depressed, the worse your memory would get, and you'd have a lot of problems. Now, if you're somehow not using your hippocampus enough, or you're not doing enough to your brain, introduction of something else that stimulates the brain in a certain way, potentially whatever's in the mushrooms, is something that of course will cause stimulation. And if lack of stimulation is a problem, then that's why it probably helps some people.
And then it's interesting because I saw there's a Netflix thing on it. My brother told me to watch it. I haven't watched it, but it was like How to Change Your Mind. And I'm so done because I was like, why did they say how to change your mind? And then because it's all about mushrooms. And then I was like, oh, it dawned on me.
Yeah.
But it took me a few seconds. But yeah, it is interesting. Like because I think with mental illness, like psychology is one of those things. Like I've read a lot of books, and I've taken some classes, and so I know a couple things, probably more than the average person, about different disorders and different whatever. And but there's still different things in my life where I'm like, I should be over this. Like I shouldn't still, this particular thing shouldn't hurt so much, or I shouldn't still want to do this, but I do. And it'd be nice if like if that could sync up in me, where those two parts, almost like the flesh and or well, depends on, they call it in the Bible in the flesh or whatever, but the you know I don't know what you call it, with the brain or the heart, whatever you want to call it.
Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. All right. No, I lost concentration for a second there. But yeah, Adam is quoting the Bible now. Did you click on whatever that was? I didn't even.
Yes.
What is it?
Oh, what did he say?
Yeah, 30
He
seconds.
just said something about it wasn't even that long of a clip. He said something about and I don't even know. Somebody said that they think he misquoted him, like, or that they.
Yeah, they probably definitely blew it out of proportion. I didn't check. Well, if he's still
about
Moses, who is it?
Yeah, Moses was considered in the Bible a great man in his time.
Okay.
And then someone else posted like, no, I think that was Noah, and I think they might be right, because Noah was around the time of like Sodom and Gomorrah, and Noah was like a family man and like a good guy.
I think,
but like,
yeah, go ahead.
And yeah, and then the people around him weren't. Oh, that reminds me of something else with Sodom and Gomorrah. If I may. May I?
May you? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Sodom and Gomorrah, because a lot of people think of like gay sex or like, being gay.
Sodomy is what people from our generation consider dick and butthole, is what we.
Yes. Yeah. So like people think like, oh, God hated the gays. But I read this thing and it was, it was talking about like, oh, did God just hate Sodom because people were having gay sex? But like, was that it? And then I read this thing that said there's only one real mention of any kind of gay sex, and it's something where these guys threaten to rape other guys, and not like make love to them, but like rape them. And so it was interesting because they said that's really the only mention of. I mean, they talk about sexual sin and like them not being good people, but like, I guess, I mean, I'd have to look at it closer, but I just thought it was interesting that like, that, people might think Sodom is this, that all it is like a bunch of gay men having sex and that pissed God off. But really there's only one mention, according to the thing that I read, of gay sex, and it was gay rape.
Somebody blowing something in the Bible way up out of proportion is something I'm very used to seeing all over the place. So true. What I've seen here though about the answer to the question about what was going on here, what was the quote? Supposedly, Go BS nailed this and says Adam's using a Bible quote about Moses to decry cancel culture, and Nuke Dukem agrees. So I think this is. So cancel culture is probably the annoying part of what stimulated this thread, because I mean, the whole, what do you think of when you think of the term cancel culture? What comes to mind?
Well, I think of
if somebody said cancel, if I came out and said cancel culture killed me, or if Sarah Silverman comes out and says cancel culture killed me, what do you think happened?
Well, I think there's a free market version of it, and then there's like people getting canceled, like losing their jobs. Like, for example, like the Dixie Chicks, like a while ago, very, very long time ago, like probably
open spaces. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this was like over 20 years ago. They said they didn't like George Bush, and then people freaked out. And it was one of those things where it's just like, all right, if you really love George Bush and you're annoyed with the Dixie Chicks, don't buy there. That's kind of just like a free market version, where it's like you decide. And then there's the actual thing where some exec, a perfect example, I think Adam talked about it, The Bachelor. One of the hosts said something about, he said something like very innocent, like he was saying, well, let's talk about, I don't even remember what he was saying, but it was something where he said, let's be fair to you and let's talk about this. And they said that he sounded sympathetic to someone who said something racist or something, but it was something, I'd have to look it up, but it was something like so that did not deserve to be canceled over.
Right. Now the canceling though, who is behind canceling? Is it the fact that it's nobody's who are behind it? It's like somebody makes a tweet that really calls somebody out, gets everybody all riled up, and then nobody wants to do business with that person anymore because one comment got taken out of context, or not even out of context, but one comment just like was so offensive. Let's pick somebody to really offend. Who should we pick? Let's pick somebody. Let's pick people from Haiti. Let's just really bash on Haiti for a second, right? If we said the most horrible thing about people from Haiti, like I won't even rollerblade in Haiti because there are no roads. Like that's my Haiti joke or whatever. Yeah, right. No, actually, there's the call.
He said it, not me.
That's a callback to a guy who told me to start rollerblading in Haiti, and he watched that video. But anyway, point is, I'm supposedly, this is not true. I think that I actually know Haitians when I was in Florida. They were really good people, at least in the communication I had with them. So I have nothing against people from Haiti. But what if my context and my joke is the only thing, right, that got pruned out of this whole podcast?
Yeah.
And something happened in Haiti, and it got timed with like an earthquake there, and the comment came out right afterward. And I'm just like, who is this awful human being who's talking about these poor people in Haiti that had their homes destroyed, right? And that cancel culture takes hold and snowballs into me never getting what again? Like never getting, like YouTube bans me for being too offensive or racist, so I can't post a video on YouTube or something. And that's the end of me. And you never hear from me again, except if you text me and want to hang out. Like, is that like what cancel culture is?
Well, what I said, I think there's two different kinds. There's a free market where, like, let's say the Dixie Chicks pissed you off and you don't, so it's the natural free market. And then
who determines whether or not you're pissed off by the Dixie Chicks?
Yourself.
And where do you get that information from that you make that determination? Do you talk to
your personal beliefs? That's what I'm saying. There's two different versions. There's a version where you decide, the consumer decides, and then the version where some exec was like, oh, I don't quite like what this person said, even though it was when you really look at it, it wasn't even that edgy, and then they get fired.
All right. Well, I'm just thinking the free market way is complicated. It's more than just the free market. It's where we get our information. Because you and I have never spoken to. I used to know her name. Who's the lead singer of the Dixie Chicks? Do you know it offhand?
Oh, Natalie Maines.
That sounds right. And there was that story where Jimmy Kimmel pretended that Natalie Maines wanted to ask Adam Carolla to an award show, and it was a complete fake. The best joke ever.
I think she had like a little tiny minor crush on Adam, but then he like played it up, like saying like, oh, she really wants to meet you again or something, and then he made it seem like, and then like, because I think he was dating Lynette at the time or something like that, and then it was something where he played it up, and then she was like, what are you talking about?
This is one of those things that is only kind of exists in the memory of people who listened to old school radio. Because if you search on Google and you're like, Natalie Maines takes Adam Carolla to award show or something, I don't even know if you're going to get a story, because it's a joke told on a podcast. Like, it's a joke told over the radio.
Yeah. Well, because like some celebrity name will come up. He's like, oh, that reminds me. And then like I can finish the story, and like, it's like, it's funny. And I think when you listen to podcasts, like I have it with a couple other podcast people I listen to, where it's like you have it where it's like with an actor or a director or like a musician, you wouldn't feel close to them. But when you listen on podcasts where they're talking for hours, you like feel like you're friends with them. Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah. No, it's such an interesting debate, or it's a confusing question, or it doesn't have a straight answer, which is who invented the podcast? Who was the first podcaster? Like, this was
not that again.
No, well, what's complicated about it is I would argue that Adam's Loveline shows were podcasts. Because if you think about what a podcast
That's
is,
true.
it's long form with limited or no filters. Like the FCC is not stopping your podcast from doing anything, right?
Right, and it's getting like deeper, and it's not talking about like just
Like, do you remember what it was like when they had the person running the dump button on Loveline who would cut out jokes they were saying because they thought that they weren't appropriate for the radio? Do you remember that happening?
um
There
really
was there was Randy Wang who was on the cuts or something once. I remember this. I think I just remember them. Sometimes they would bleep stuff out, whether it be on Loveline or whether it be, yeah, Loveline did it too. And they would get so angry when stuff got bleeped because it was funny.
yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. Anyway, so yeah, I won't get stuck on what was a podcast, but it goes to what you're saying, which is you feel like you know him, and that's because he's been expressing himself in a form that is at least similar to what the current day podcasts are since the 90s.
Yeah.
Since before you were, no, I was about to say since before you were a virgin, since before you were not a virgin.
Before I was.
Yeah. 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 So let's keep going down because it it is for the people in this thread. So you listened today and you liked Grapefruit Simmons. You said great show. That's what I remember you saying in there.
Yeah, I'm a Greg fan, and
yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm kind of like I like I don't know. I just kind of like male humor, and guys being guys. I don't know. As like I just kind of like that kind of I don't know environment and them just riffing and.
You want to be in a guy's locker room, and they would definitely let you in. You would not have to pretend to be tranny to be allowed in the guy's locker room.
It's funny because if you know my mom, she's the exact opposite. Like she doesn't like male humor. Like she doesn't like just seeing like men being men. And I'm not talking about like anything like bad. Like just like we went to the beach one day and there was this couple in front of us and the wife went to the bathroom or whatever. And so I was like reading a book or looking at something, not even paying attention. And like, she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And she's like, his wife is in the bathroom and he's been staring at this girl's ass for the last 2 minutes. And I'm just like, Mom, like, but like shit like that bothers her, and it's like.
Well, maybe your mom wants to have class and dignity. Huh? Maybe your mom wants to have class. She wants to be classy. I think.
Yeah. I guess.
But then don't criticize the class list. Just be classy, as they say. Stay classy yourself. Well, stay classy, Mrs. Butters. Yeah.
No, I just don't. I don't offend easily, and
right.
Guys saying like, "Oh, that girl's got great tits," and it's like, why would I be offended by that?
Yeah, there was a guest who was apparently awful. Was it the Russian influencer a couple weeks ago? I think. Remember reading this?
A guest. Oh, I think
she took a lot of flack. She took so much flack in the cast that I was like, wow, this woman will never come back because it was awful.
I think I saw a post about that and they said it was awful, so I didn't listen.
And Tia Carrere is winning apparently. Adam made a joke about her saggy boobs and she took it well. Good. I think that happened.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm listening to like.
I'm not listening to any.
I'm listening to about half of them now. So yeah. So I don't hear every little thing. But
no, that's fine. I'm reading. I'm still checking in on the daily thread. I can't not. I don't know. There's too many people that are still entertaining in here. Well, anyway, they destroyed some Russian influencer for being young and complete. There was another guy as the guest, and then there was the influencer girl, and apparently she was out of her league, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
So anyway, that demo is tough. You got to be really smart to be in your 20s. Oh yeah, are you annoyed that I was picking up 24-year-olds in Tulsa, Oklahoma? You must have seen that. You didn't see that?
Oh no, I didn't.
No, I was at a casino and it was very late at night, and they were like, they were in their 20s, which is of course half my age. But I decided to do a YouTube video with them, but I know that pisses women off when they see that. I'm not touching 24-year-olds. Don't worry, I would not do that.
Okay.
but I will
Well,
definitely.
like flirt and talk sexually. We're not anything. I'm not any kind of, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. To clarify for everyone. Yes. No. But I joke around about that stuff. But I figured you would have seen that. No. I like to appear younger than I am because I sometimes look younger. So
Yeah,
I basically like
right.
would love it if somebody in their 20s thought I was their age. That's pretty much all I'm
Oh
going
yeah,
for. And then I get to be
yeah,
like, no, actually, I'm your dad's age.
right, right.
And it's funny.
No, I get it. I think I'm maturing because I used to like guys that are like 10, 15 years older than me, and now like I want to keep it under 10. And I'm like, I'm growing up.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to go over the other thing because you texted me earlier today about this, asking
Okay.
about what are the crystal bots.
Yeah. And you
So
kind of
yeah, what did you
made it
think I
clear.
explained as an answer? What do you think crystal bots are?
Well, you said they were you were thinking it was Crystal making different accounts and voting and down voting things to make it look like a more positive environment or whatever, or to maybe influence other people. Isn't that what you
I
said?
think that's part of it for sure. I think that so yeah, don't think they're actually bots. We think that they are accounts that came up out of nowhere
Yeah.
that I know, especially one of them was like pretend like asking questions that they would obviously know the answer to. Like they're like, so who is Crystal or something like that, right?
Oh,
Which, but they also like were really into the show and knew a lot about Adam. So like stuff did not make sense, and that's why we all
okay.
our spidey sense went off, and we're like, all right, this is clearly something going on here.
I've noticed is like in the past, if someone complimented Adam, there might be one like, and then there would seem to be more likes with any like positive comments. That's the only thing I noticed.
Right. Try to make things look better. I
Yeah.
have some advice for them. I mean, because I've said this a few times in podcasts about this. We all want to like Adam and to listen to him. We do.
Yeah.
We all would like to do that. Yet we're awful and hostile on the board and attacking everything. And that's
You know what I've
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say because I listen to other podcasts and then I've heard one guy say that one host of another show that he goes to on Reddit and he looks at other boards and any board with like a big following, most of it is negative comments.
Yes.
And so it's not. It's probably I'd say it's probably a little more than on average with Corolla, but it's not because if people are you know, they want to talk about stuff, and it's probably more than like, oh, that was a great show, or a lot of times I think it's just original people that remember the original guy or whatever it is, and then they want to comment. So I don't think I thought that was interesting that the guy brought that up that if you go on other podcast Reddits, it's not like everybody's saying like Joe Rogan's fantastic, and they agree with everything he says. So there's criticism, I guess. I guess it's normal just to have more criticism on the podcast Reddits.
Well, yeah. So it gets a little more complicated in Adam's situation because nobody is like Joe Rogan signed a huge contract. What we think about Joe Rogan or even Bill Simmons, honestly, with his network, we think of big money and we think of successful stuff and we think of content that's getting played and reverberates on YouTube and some stuff goes viral. Like when Joe Rogan says something, I think I see it on the news sometimes, but when Adam Carolla says something, we don't see it on the news. Like he doesn't have that kind of reach. And so his area where his image is being formed, I think that the subreddit is a huge place for that. I think that anybody who searches anything Adam Carolla or whatever probably finds this place because he has no message board on his own website. And other than his own website, anybody talking about whatever, like there's a daily thread here. There's not that stuff on the dime anymore like it used to be. I don't think. So anyway, point is that he would like this place, you would think, to be positive and productive for his brand, his name, his content, his whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
how do you do that if you're Crystal Bots? Like, what do you do to try to make that happen?
yeah,
You,
it's true. I'm pro Crystal.
I'm pro
I'm
Crystal too. Hi Crystal. I always say she's watching. Hi
she
Crystal.
might, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
No, we like you. We like you because you're super,
Oh,
super
I
hot.
do. I was telling my brother because he used to listen like on a regular basis to Kroll, and then he just kind of tapped out. But and then I like give him news like, oh yeah, Gina and Brian are gone, and then I'm like, and Adam's got a new lady, according to stuff I've seen on the internet. And I said, she's Middle Eastern and very hot, and I was like, very nice, something like that. And he was like, oh, good for him. I was like,
She's
yeah.
she's from Michigan, so that is Middle East in the United States, actually.
Oh,
But her
I don't.
parents are Iraqi, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry. I knew she was. I didn't know if she was born there. I know that she's of Middle Eastern descent.
no,
Yes.
no, no. I'm kind of making fun of you because no, she's from Detroit, I believe, but we all say she's Iraqi. And I had good friends I grew up with down the street that played hockey with and stuff that were from Iraq, and I used to go over to their house and hang out all the time in the basement. And they had an older sister who was super hot, and she disappeared too. Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know what that means.
no, I never really saw her all that much. I hang out with the two brothers instead. But she, yeah, yeah, their women are prized possessions. Let's just say that. Um, so yeah, we like Crystal.
Yeah, and I looked at her Instagram, and
Oh, you
I'm not
have?
gonna.
I haven't done
Yeah, I
that.
mean, yeah, I've looked
You
at her Instagram,
obsessive.
but I'm not
Go ahead.
like I was like, oh, that's interesting because I try to observe things, but like I think she's. I mean, I think her and Adam. If Adam's smart, he's. I mean, if I don't know if this relationship gonna last, but if he's smart, he won't talk about her. You know, the way the way he just like talked about everything with
Oh,
Adam.
oh yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, first of all, there's the act of divorce that is it's very easy to remember to not talk about your current relationship when your lawyer's like, do not talk about your current relationship in
Yeah.
the middle of divorce. That doesn't play over well. No, so he's not doing that other than him. I heard him say in the first episode of the year after the firings of Brian and Gina, it was that my girlfriend said my girlfriend. That's the only time I've heard him say it. Um, yeah, that'll change as soon as the divorce is more final. Gosh, I feel bad for Adam and divorce. Divorces suck. I mean,
Yeah.
and when you have money, divorce is great when you are poor.
Right.
Awesome. It means you just get away from something that was a hassle, not I have to pay for the rest of my life
Yeah.
for a
Well,
relationship.
I can imagine I don't really do long term relationships I mean, I want one, but haven't really done them but yeah, I can imagine it's painful.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if you had somebody paying your bills now from when you'd been married like 10 years ago? Wouldn't that be
I
awesome?
guess so, yeah.
You would have had to pop out a couple kids or something. But I mean, is that like, yeah, you got to deal with the kids. But
Yeah,
you can get money even not having kids, but it really helps if you have the kids. So
yeah. Well, if you're rich enough, you can do a surrogate now.
house, what do you mean?
You you can do the thing where you save your eggs and then you can give them to another and put your husband's sperm in them,
Oh, wow.
and then you can and another woman can give birth to your children. You know that.
Yeah, I did know that. I didn't realize. I mean, I do still feel like the woman who's having the baby's got some genetic input into that. It seems like. Even though the
Um,
cells are dividing based off of the original insemination from the original man and the woman, what's feeding to it is coming from a new human being, and that's going to
I
have an impact. It's going to have an impact.
there's there's could be
Yeah.
some long term studies done on that, and
Well,
I have
sorry.
heard crazy
Yeah.
stories about. I have heard crazy stories about like someone who knows if it's bullshit, but I heard this story about someone got a kidney, um, or something, and then they all of a sudden they wanted to do like home improvement projects, and the guy they got the kidney from was like a home improvement guy, and I heard it somewhere. It was probably bullshit, but they're just like,
No,
yeah,
I
out of
mean,
nowhere, I just like want to
fair.
fix my fence and do all this stuff.
Uh, well, I'm sure that a lot of that's probably just psychological.
Probably, yeah. Don't quote
But
me on
but hey, listen, if your kidney is all of a sudden working better and you're filtering your blood better, you are probably not as lethargic and you want to get out and do stuff. And the association of what the person's doing is where the happenstance happens. But just feeling better makes you want to do more.
that. Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, I
it's
have
funny.
a. Well, I don't know how much you want to get into. I had an interesting like philosophical thing. But did you want to talk about like Gina or whatever or no?
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even bring it up yet. I had been browsing through the threads and I thought about whether or not I should talk about it. We can, but go philosophical first and we'll end on poor Gina.
Or, we should maybe let's get Gina out of the way.
You think Gina's going to be a quick conversation? All right, maybe.
I feel it. My thing with Gina is like I feel bad for her because she lost her job, but and she was annoying. And I made like one last thread. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so annoying because my whole thing was like she's made stepmother her entire personality, or the good stepmom or whatever. So, and that was just like me, like okay, now I'm done. And but yeah, like I would. I'm not a Gina fan, obviously. I wish her well, and some people left some bad reviews on the book, which I think is pretty messed up. I mean, I wouldn't do
Yes,
that for me.
that's
It's the
what.
whole
Yes. So I mean, we can
like
get.
the rule thing.
Yeah, we can get into a real in-depth discussion. So it's Richard Parker who posted the first one that I saw about this, which is Gina grads.
On there were like at least 3 or 4 reviews from you could tell Corolla fans.
Okay.
They weren't.
Yes. Gina Grad's public bid to get Amazon to take down reviews she does not like from people who may not have night or read the book misspelled because Richard Parker can't type on his phone. But fake 5.
Well, the book, I mean, it's for a limited audience. Most people aren't stepmoms with young kids, so I don't have any reason to buy the book, and I'm not gonna, and it's the whole golden rule or karma thing. I'm not about to fuck like no.
I'm gonna comment
That's
on.
not nice.
I'm gonna comment on this simply because I actually feel like I'm sort of mentally healthy on the Gina issue here because I don't listen, and so I don't have enough of listening to her to hate her because I just you just haven't. Like all the bullets miss me. Like I don't care who fired the gun. It's over. So point is there are people who have been listening, and I'm wondering how many people listen every day that are part of this anti-Gina expression contingent, which is now it's gone too far. And I think everybody kind of agrees it's gone too far because if you look at the comments,
like you guys are like a dog that's going after their tail, and now that they have it, they don't know what to do. It's like kind of But I agree. Like I mean, that woman bothered me, and I was like, I acknowledged. I was like, okay, this is my last post. Just saying she's annoying and she's made stepmom her whole personality. But yeah, she's off the show, and I wish her well. I think she's annoying, and I'm glad I never have to hear her voice again. But,
all right, let's get super deep into the mental illness part of this. I'm gonna call it illness because I think it kind of is. So let's go over what Richard Parker's doing. A guy I've had beers with. All right. So he is so angered at, I would call it angered, or just he's lit up about Gina that now that she's even not on the show, he's posting in the sub. He was banned from Reddit and then he got back on. All right. He's banned. And here's what he's posting. He's going after Gina, who's not on the show anymore. And he's posting her Twitter. Is this? Yeah. He's analyzing her tweets and he's super angry. So why do you have to follow her away from the content you were listening to go and attack her after she's not part of the content that you want to listen to, which is the Ace Man?
And everybody, it's one of those things like if you have a coworker and you can't stand them, and then other people you're I can't it's like kind of fun to complain, but it's like, all right, it's time to move on.
It makes me want to defend her, even though I don't want to defend her, because I'm like, it's just not fair to have people hunting you down that don't like you and
And
making things worse.
someone posted some stuff about her husband's ex-wife, and I was like, okay, that's definitely not cool.
All right.
So
Somebody in the gotta keep
Ken
going.
Ken and BabyButters are anti messing with Gina anymore.
Right,
I know I posted that last thing, but I even said, I was like, this is my last thing, that she's annoying and she's made stepmom her whole personality, but I'm moving on.
Given that we're moving on, let's just not move on for 5 more seconds, or like a minute or two, because they're in the thread. Somebody commented that the Gina grad is a hack comment was actually pretty good, and I had started reading it, and I was like, this person's actually kind of right. So let's do talk about this, because even though this is wrong, you know what? I'm starting to understand what the people are doing that are doing this. Is that if you do something in her Amazon review or something, that she is absolutely going to see it. So it is it's almost like a sucker punch coming from a troll, because she's got this valuable area that's shaping her image because she's no longer on the show, and you want to pollute it with what I'm reading right now on this podcast, which is
and I've never been like a revenge person or someone who's like, I just, that's not like my kind of thing. Or like, I mean,
well, let's read this. Let's read this and find out why this is actually pretty good.
Okay.
Gina is reaching far for the fame she will never, all caps, never have. Gina constantly gets fired from everything, all caps.
You read that,
all caps. You did read it, yeah. She does, and now she's using her stepson, using an acquired family member, yet again, someone else's accomplishment. Oh my God. To look for fame. Stop laughing like a maniac and understand you got fired for being annoying and unintelligent. The show has been amazing, all caps, without your constant interruptions. Yeah, exactly. And cackling for attention. So I mean, talk about just like, when someone can use your personal things against you in a criticism that damaging and destructive, I don't know what you do when you see that. That's like, let's face it, like that's like getting just beat down career-wise in a public forum, in a place.
You want to be strong enough to.
All right, is that all true? Is that all true that person said? She will never have fame. First of all, that's not true. She has fame. We're talking about her on my podcast.
Yeah.
So that's not true. Gina constantly gets fired from everything. Okay, but you still worked there for how many years?
Yeah.
7.
Yeah. It's not.
Everyone gets fired. First of all, I'm not gonna bash anyone for getting fired. I've been fired from way more jobs than Gina has. Way more. Exponentially more. Now, does not now, okay, now using the stepson. All right. So where is this kind of a valid criticism? She's writing a book about being a stepmom, I guess, because she's now in that position.
Yeah, and also it's unclear, obviously, and it's none of our business, but like, how big of a role does she have in his life? We don't know. And so, and that's not my business. So is she like really exaggerating, or is it, I think it's, but I'm not gonna,
I don't see the word, maybe I do, I just can't find it. The word fake anywhere in here. Does this person use the word fake? Because I've always thought that Gina is kind of faking stuff a little bit. And if
she does, I have called her fake in the past.
Yeah. So I think that is probably where the stuff stems from. Like, I don't know how to be authentic if you're not authentic, or why we're saying that. Other than the experience on the show apparently was a little like that. So, but Gina, if you're watching this, hi Crystal, but Gina, if you're watching this, I'd have to say that, oh man, I'll do a podcast with her. I'll do a podcast with you. I would do that, because I feel like we're awful people for doing this. So you have to explain that humans are not just all awful.
What you call it, like the schoolyard mentality of like, oh, it's like a self
Self-fulfilling prophecy. No, it,
it's like a self-protection thing. If a bunch of kids are like picking on another kid, it's like, oh cool, they're not picking on me right now. It's almost so yeah, like I I found Gina very annoying, but I also sympathize with
yeah.
I wouldn't be tough enough to be public like that and know people are saying really unfair things. Some of them true, but some of them, not nice and untrue.
Yeah, no,
But
and nobody hates her because she's Jewish. The anti-Semitism stuff is not, that's not it. That's nobody can complain that a Jew didn't make it in Hollywood. It's not an appropriate assessment of things. Yeah,
yeah, we talked about her a lot.
yeah, it's an easy target. It's a big, soft, bouncing two targets that you can go after. Yeah.
Reminds me, I'm in a singles forum and
Of course you are.
probably on a Facebook, and it was like introduce yourself, and like we all kind of knew each other anyways, but I posted this picture of me and I described myself, and then I said I have a couple good qualities,
Yeah.
and my boobs are like very prominent in that dress. So
That's the way to do
and
it.
I made everyone laugh.
That's the way to do it.
I don't know why I told that story.
Because you like providing content that's risque and rated PG-13 plus. That's why.
Yeah.
Should we talk?
My mom doesn't like when I post pictures of.
All right.
I don't post that many pictures of.
I don't know how to think about this. I keep going over it in the sub as I'm scrolling. Should we talk about Sakic posting Adam's tweet of his picture of his daughter, proud dad, wanted to go out with dinner? No.
I like my response. Do you ever write something and I'm like, that was a good response? I do that. I'm like, well said, me.
Okay. All right.
I told someone in there, I'm like, because someone's like, it's obvious he's got a great relationship with his daughter. And then I said, oh, is it? And then I said, you can tell just based on, a few pictures here and there. And then I told him, I was like, you're the kind of guy that is flabbergasted when they find out that a couple broke up, because when you talk to them for 10 minutes at a Christmas party, they were smiling and happy.
Okay. So your assessment of what goes out, smiles on social media don't mean shit to you because they're just a snapshot in time. I guess.
I've been guilty of that too, where I've thought like, wow, they're breaking up. Like, and then you have to remind yourself, like, oh, these are happy moments that I'm seeing. You're not seeing the ugly stuff.
I would say you have to sleep at the same home with a couple for at least 3 days to know whether or not they're almost ready to get a divorce. That's what I've experienced in life. About the third day, you get to see the true colors of how everybody's really acting on a daily basis. And then you can know, but not from pictures. All right, well, whatever. We don't have to do that. All right, so what else do we want to talk about? I'm gonna
philosophical thing.
Oh yeah. Please go.
Well, so like I'm a Christian, but I'm not like an annoying, and I'm not even like a strong Christian, but I believe in God. I believe in something bigger, and I know you don't really believe in God, which is fine. But sometimes I find things interesting, like, wow, how the hell would this exist without someone creating us without God? Sure. So sometimes I find things like that. And so this is something to think about. One word, language. How the hell were we as humans able to develop languages without some guiding force giving it to us?
Okay. I love answering questions like this. Good.
Because think about right before I let you go on, but think about like, there's a bunch of us and we're all like, we have to decide what's the word for cup, what's the word for horse, and just everything. And then somebody else is calling it something else, and you're like, no, this is a horse, and you have to like go over like all the intricacies of the language and agree with it, and
it's almost like physical proximity to other people who could agree on what language was, ends up determining what the language is, which is why we have different languages all over the world, even today. Even though they're trying to all kind of migrate toward English because we have the most money. But yeah, so this is an interesting thing. It reminds me of a discussion about basically like how is something so complicated that it could never have formed naturally because its complexity just doesn't make it so complicated that it's not anything that could be naturally formed in the universe or whatever. There's an
Yeah.
argument about that. So, well, the language issue starts. I mean, it starts. A big part of the language issue is going to be, first of all, brain and memory capacity to like what can you hear in your ears and how can you like store that hearing in your ears, and also what sounds are out there, and also what sounds can you make. So there's
Yeah.
this must have been this just amazing evolutionary confluence of as our brains grew bigger and our mouths or whatever, our tongues formed, teeth, and how many, like there must have been so many different iterations before what we have today. There were people that probably had really, really small tongues and they couldn't speak really well.
Yeah.
And so they died off because nobody could hear what they were saying. Like that's kind of what evolution is, right? So the answer is more related to how complicated our brains are and how do our brains get so complicated.
Yeah.
That leads to that. But no, it could absolutely form because it's just a matter of sounds, making sounds, turning those sounds into things in our head. And, then like, I'm sure there was a war between cavemen that were like, this thing is stick. And the other was like, no, this thing is dildo. No, this thing is stick.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually the dildo won. And everything's called dildo now. But
I like to think that eventually the dildo wins. Yeah.
yeah, it does.
In the story. Yeah.
It gets in there.
In every story.
Yeah. So I think that that's probably over. What's so difficult for us to understand about how that probably happens is the number of generations that it takes for things like that to happen. Like we still don't have real finite answers about how old we were and what like current day humans look like. I mean, the answer is about when supposedly life started on Earth. We're talking about billions and hundreds of millions of years old with an ever-changing planet. So there still is a lot of guesswork when it comes to trying to be super accurate in science on these things.
Yeah.
Carbon
dating. But I think some things are interesting, and I think about because evolution is it's 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 how, what am I trying to say? Like when you say evolution, you don't necessarily mean, we all used to be monkeys and now we're
yeah, evolution has a bad connotation in your vocabulary. So let's come up with a new word then. Because evolution is not the best description of what it is. So this is how I understand it. As I've tried to work with like molecular level DNA sequences, which comprise all your cells and deep inside your cells. And that is one of the things that they look at when they look at old fossils and stuff like that, because they can extract certain types of DNA from it to see what the pattern was. And the pattern is almost like math. It's basically like some elements that have certain amounts of force and hydrogen bonds in them, and they're like bouncy rubbery balls or whatever, and some of them bond to other things. So when you have this huge string of stuff, you start to like map back, like, well, your DNA like grows or changes its formatting and like changes its order of stuff. And then, but when you have a child, you get like one set from your mother, one set from your father, and they combine and you get to see where things, the genes that were passed down. So you can start to trace back into stuff. Now, as I think about evolution, I think about this collaboration of what we call biology and living stuff, which is cells, and we're fluid filled sacs. We've got to have hot blood running through us. Okay, so we're a big huge organ of skin covered in a bunch of, we're like a pool coating, right? We're covering a pool of stuff, and then we've got enough connective hard stuff inside of our pool to form things like bones and organs that work together somehow, right? Doing really complicated stuff. That conglomeration of big fluid filled sacs has been changing and optimizing itself for billions of years because it wasn't always easy to survive. And so the healthiest survived. So when we have something like disabled people for example, who are really shunned upon in countries that have no money because it's really right. Those people died before the days of today. They just died. Like they couldn't migrate with it.
But it's if you have very limited resources and you have somebody that, yeah.
Or what if you have to be physically active and hunt for your well-being? Like, do you think there are any people in wheelchairs on those islands that they don't disturb, like off of Africa or off of India? There's this island off of Southwest India where they still can't go because all the people kill them. Anybody that goes there, they kill. They hate humans, right? So you think there are any people in wheelchairs on that island? No way, right? They're dead because they couldn't like hunt for their survival. Like not their clan couldn't take care of them for so long. So anyway, this optimizing sack of blood or whatever that we are, and then we'll get back to another discussion, is what started as apparently like plankton or whatever in the sea, like started as fish, and amphibians and rabbits and squirrel, God knows, whatever. It's not a straight line because those lines have been developing out simultaneously in different directions forever. But yeah, like people moved to land. I think things moved from the sea to land and then got good at the land. And that's why we like freshwater instead of seawater, because it's better for our blood composition, makes us more mobile, makes us less reliant on ambient temperature outside. Like there's all these different reasons why humans came about the way they did. And why bears did. Like a bear can kick our ass. A bear will kill you, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. But it's not as smart. Can't see as well. It's got too much in the jaw and not enough in the eye. It's weird. Anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was thinking of like, because obviously, you're smarter than I am. I know I'm better at some things than you are, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
of course. You're absolutely better at some things. You're
so,
better at having babies, even though sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So, but yeah, I've got like, and then I thought of like two different things. But I like to talk about like, why is this way? And like one thing I was just thinking about, I thought about it a long time ago, and then somebody mentioned on a podcast that I was listening to, and they're like, why does shit have to smell so bad? And like, why can't it smell like, wouldn't that be nice if it smelled like vanilla or this or this? And then I was thinking, I think it has to smell bad because if it didn't smell bad, because we're not supposed to be around shit at all, because that's deadly for us. We can't be getting it in wounds, and we can't be consuming it, and it needs to be far away from us. So the fact that it's unpleasant, it serves, I guess, a purpose or whatever.
Multiple purposes. So what's fascinating about that is when you really start to dig into shit here, what you get is you say, all right, well, this is the stuff that my gut, my intestines, and my body decided that it did not want any of this. It's like, oh, you had a Big Mac, and this is what we've decided we did not need to use from that Big Mac, right? So yeah, of course, if it smelled good and we then wanted to try to eat it again, why wouldn't that work out? Well, the reason why the body excreted it is it added a bunch of enzymes and stuff to it, and it passed a test of being excreted. So it now contains.
I know bile makes it smell really bad.
Well, yeah, it contains stuff from your body that is trying to break it down also, but also like there's like if your body took it in, that essentially you would be doing sepsis a lot, or you would be your body would be taking in stuff that for some reason it evolution again, or it optimized itself, and it kicked this shape of stuff out of your digestion and doesn't bond, doesn't absorb. Why? Because if it absorbed, it would change your biochemistry in a way that would not be favorable, I guess. I mean, everyone's gut works a little differently, but
but things that like that exist that help keep us alive, like because honestly, if shit smelled really good, we leave it around the house, and
I think actually, what you're saying is if your digestive enzymes that create your bowel movements did not have I think, you know what it is? We probably developed a ability to smell it because it's bad for us. And we just, that's why it smells. That's probably what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because like let's say it to us it smelled pleasant, then why wouldn't we just keep some around the house?
Yeah. No,
The shit is the
there's
shit is bad for
absolutely,
us.
yeah, there's
So
absolutely a kid that loves the smell of shit and eats it and gets sick. Yeah. That, I'm sure that happens. I think it's still evolving. I think it's as we evolve our sense of smell.
yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
even know that though. Like certain survival things that the body purposely does, like for example, I had a doctor tell me once, if you get too skinny and you're a woman, your body automatically stops menstruating because it somehow knows that if you got pregnant, it would kill like both of you because there's not enough like nutrients, like if you're starving yourself or whatever. So your body just does things like that to protect itself. Like, all right, period's gone because we can't be getting pregnant right now because there's not enough food, or we're starving for whatever reason. Interesting stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
your body just
No, yeah. Well, your female body is super complicated. I don't think enough about the female body because I don't have one. But yeah, maybe I should train it up. No, that's totally true.
for that where I don't even know the word, but like little things that your
Yes.
body is smart about that keeps you alive, and then it's like you could argue, well, that's just the way it is, or did someone design it to be this smart?
So assume, no. Yes, assume that not just the optimal thing that has occurred, which is most women's fertility is variable based on their health condition, even
Yeah.
at the time, that evolutionary trait or whatever that is common in many women is because there were so many alternate scenarios of how fertility reacted to weight, and all the women who kept getting their periods no matter how much weight they had on, even if they were too skinny, they may have either died in childbirth or died or they would have miscarriages frequently because there were other reasons why it wouldn't happen. For whatever reason, it became more of a it became more of a survival trait to get pregnant more often when your body is going to handle it more, I guess. And the ones that had that trait where they would get pregnant all the time, no matter what their situation was, they died. And their children may have died in childbirth or never come to term anyway. So those genes died off more, basically. So that's why it's all about survival. It's really survival of the fittest is the best explanation for evolution. And you just don't realize how competitive it was to be alive before the last few hundred years. The last few hundred years have been totally different, even for the humans. Like totally, right? I mean,
and you look at the first world countries, like even now, they're people, babies and moms didn't survive way back then. My mom probably would have. I don't think I would have been here if she, back in the 1700s, like she. This is gross. No, she had trouble giving birth, like getting us out, and then I had my ex, or the one that I lost my virginity to. He's like, "Oh, your mom had a tight pussy," and I was like, "I can't believe you just said that."
Well, I mean, the answer is yeah. Well, or the ability for it to expand as needed. Like you got to do some training and stuff. It's helpful. We just think about. It's just it's right. It's really it's such a great argument for optimization and evolution stuff, which is it's just at the cusp where it barely works, meaning most heads barely get out.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, why is that? And the answer is because apparently, like your brain grows at a certain rate and your brain's got to form a certain size. And there was clearly an evolutionary tug of war going on between how big can we make the brains and how much can we get the vagina to open up? Because if the vagina doesn't open up, the big brain never gets born and it dies inside. It never survives, especially thousands of years ago or so as this was evolving. And now here in the 21st century, we have the ability to cut babies with brains that would never fit out of there. We can still make that happen. So
I just had this really unpleasant thought.
what's that?
I don't know if I should even. Well, since I brought it up, since that's the rule. No, I don't know if I told you uh,
You don't have to get
I
too
might have
personal.
told you in the past, um, I feel like I might have told you, but my mom with the tight pussy or whatever, so wrong. But anyway, her
She should
mom,
be proud. Remember, she
yeah,
likes to stay classy, so she's gonna love that.
yeah, and then her mom, also, her mom had 3 daughters, and she's one of the daughters. But she also had a little boy, and they tried to get him out, and he wasn't coming out, and they used
Forceps?
forceps.
Sure.
And so that little boy died the day he was born.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel bad bringing it up like that, but
Well, I mean, I've started to have more adult thoughts about death, life and death, especially I think as you get older, you kind of have to.
yeah,
And
no, I hate that I brought it up in that context.
oh no,
Thinking,
it's okay. It can be more I don't know necessarily positive discussion, but it could be more of a developed discussion, which is it's when you think about passing on genes and stuff like that.
So type pussies run in my DNA. Oh,
Yes, yes, and you're
I've been told by a couple different men. All right.
no, that's great. I think that's what every guy wants.
I'm a bad person.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
You're nice and tight. Yeah. No, it's real. It is absolutely a podcast for those that stuck it out. I feel like I shouldn't even tag if I'm going to do a scrap description of everything we talked about. I feel like I should leave the comment that BabyButters' mom's pussy is tight, and so is hers. Maybe I'll leave that out so that.
Say how she knows her. Yeah. No, I feel really. Of course, I would never say that. And of course, like my grandmother, because my grandparents, like my mom said, like, oh, they both had drinking problems, and childhood wasn't fun. And I was like, oh, and then I hung out with them a few times, and then one day I realized, oh, she wasn't exaggerating. They both have drinking problems, and they're both like mean. And then the next day they don't remember, and then I was very judgmental back then because I was a kid and I didn't understand. And then years later, I found out things about like the little boy that they didn't bring home, And then I was like, okay, I completely understand her drinking now, because they weren't allowed to get therapy. That was just like, oh, wow, this was really awful. Okay, let's go home and try to forget about it,
Yeah. My grandfather, who lived to 98 and was an only child, actually had a sister that died, I believe, as a baby in New York at like under a year. So got sick and died. And that was that was kind of like you can't really get over that, I guess, in a relationship. Sometimes. And so it was always a sore point of contention. So yeah, I mean I want to make a discussion like kind of like death is part of life and part of the cycle, yet it's still extremely difficult for us that have such good memories as humans to get over. And I guess we just the world is for the living, but we shouldn't forget those that have passed on. So yeah, I always just like to replay stories with people that I remember that aren't around anymore whenever I can. But as you get older, you have to think about it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna like in a few minutes I'm gonna hang up with you, and then I'm gonna feel bad about what I've said about my grandmother. I mean
well, I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of a public therapy thing. I think it's something that what you're transmitting to all of us is that yes, when we're children, we especially see things that we don't fully understand yet, and now that we're old enough to see what it actually is in practice and know it without any filters, it makes us look back upon it differently. Now,
that is an amazing part of life too, and there's this book. Have you ever heard of the Joy Luck Club?
Yes, I have heard of the Joy Luck Club. I'm sure I have a copy of the Joy Luck Club somewhere in the house where I am right now.
Oh yeah,
I might probably have two. Yeah.
they just they're yeah their moms were they were second generation Chinese, and their moms came from China, and these women, they just like couldn't stand their moms because they were just so like so much of an immigrant, and they were American, and they didn't want, and they just had nothing in common with their moms, and then they find out that their moms are just very complex people with lives, and and just because they don't understand them, it's just interesting.
Yeah, no, as we grow up and we start to, I guess, start to see a less filtered outside world, and our brains become more complicated to understand different dimensions of things. I don't know. I've always tried to explain everything to my son, no matter how complicated. And I don't know how much he gets of that. So I think he gets a good deal, but I'm sure that he doesn't get all of it because your brain just doesn't work the same when you're really young. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I have certainly haven't held back anything because I try to live my life in a way that if everything it was public, that I wouldn't be too ashamed of anything. Like I'm not worried about. I mean, I'm not worried about like anything really coming out, So not all of us can live that way, but so I just try to then explain because I feel like everything's. You can tell I love to explain stuff. Love to explain stuff because I don't have a lot of questions. I feel like I've gone through life trying to answer all the super crazy questions, and while I still have obvious questions about everything, I don't have a lot of like my brain isn't stuck on crazy stuff. Like oh yeah, I want to talk about this at the end because you were going philosophical. What created everything? Like what when you start to think about like the universe, the assuming stuff shot out from another dimension in a big bang in a stream of atoms or whatever at freaking speed of light, whatever, exploding into space. Where'd all that come from? How can like that be a thing? Like, what is the world? Like, what is everything? It is a question that we'd love to have the answer to, right?
Yeah.
Other than stuff just naturally forming out of whatever energy is formed in whatever space and continuum that we're in, I don't know what else to say about it. Like, it's kind of like, I don't think we're ever going to really know unless it really is like a simulation being run by a bunch of robots in a dimension so much higher than us. It's like the end of the Men in Black movie, I think, where it's a bunch of like octopuses throwing around a marble with the universe inside of it or something like that. That our universe is inside of one of their marbles and they're playing, dice. Yeah, who knows? I really have no clue. But I don't.
Yeah, we don't know.
But I don't think it's one like human being type person like a god that could do that. I don't know. I just don't. That's what I don't subscribe to about it. It's too complicated to know, and any books about it can't possibly be right because they don't know.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
I feel like a bad person for making jokes about my grandmother's pussy. I feel bad.
Well, you know what? If you weren't, nobody would be talking about your grandma. So at least your grandma's getting some play here in 2023. I mean, she passed away. She passed away how long ago?
2001.
Yeah. I mean, if before she died, she was like, I'm gonna be on BabyButters' podcast in 2023 because my vag would not open up enough years ago. I don't know what she would say to that, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah. Well, no, I would never ever say this to my mom or anyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's it's comedy.
Well, what happens? What happens if your mom hears this?
Oh,
that could happen.
Oh man,
could totally happen. I can think of a linear way that happens.
I'm gonna blame my ex-boyfriend because it never occurred to me that the reason why, like, because she had my mom had 3 cesareans, and
just gonna keep going, aren't you?
No, so my mom had 3 cesareans. One of them was planned, and the other 2 she tried to, give birth naturally. But like, it never occurred to me I just thought like, oh, she's not good at giving birth or whatever. And then she pointed out, oh, I think your mom's pussy's too tight. And then I was like, oh, thanks. Now I have that in my head.
It's a very masculine thing to say. It's the
Yeah.
most obvious thing to say. Well,
So I'm gonna blame him. I'm gonna blame that dude.
yeah, well, if she eventually hears this someday, you can just say that I was trying to be real, and that's why people listened. And so I was real. I apologize for
Yeah.
being real.
Imagine, yeah. But I can imagine a comedian making a joke about that, and everybody being like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, that's kind of what
You would get
people do.
you would get canceled by all the moms with tight snatches all across the country that would not want to hear from you ever
Uh,
again. Yeah.
well, here's the thing: I wasn't going to go into that story, but then it's like, well, I brought it up, and then I did. Oh, I don't know if I should, but then I'm like, that's bad radio. I can't just like, I can't talk about that.
No, you do good pod. I mean, I think I don't know how many people there are, but there are a lot of people that will listen to this because they're in the mood to listen to something, and it's easy
Yeah.
listening. You're a fly on the wall in a personal conversation. That's what I've always thought podcasts are supposed to be. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. So, but it has gone long, guys. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock in the East Coast. I got to do another video about baseball for everyone who's asking me about baseball. What should I do? I'll ask you some advice. So I've got this thing that everyone wants to buy, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to get involved with it because it's a huge rabbit hole, and I never do anything except update baseball games all year long. Like I'd be coming out west, and I'd be like, oh, I can't meet up with you tonight because I have to update lineups for baseball for people like that. That became my life. I'm just not doing it at all this summer, but they want to buy the thing from me. What do I do? Do I tell them? What do I do?
Do you not want to do it because it's time consuming or because it bores you?
Yeah, I don't want to do it because it's over time consuming, meaning like I end up doing it every day because to do it right, there's games every day. So you have to do it and work on it and update it every day. And what I do is I usually create a file at the beginning that they can update, but it's so complicated. The baseball one is so complicated that it's me answering questions about it and people asking me for versions of it, and nobody ever wants to pay me a lot of money to do it either. So I just hate my life and I've decided not doing it. There's another guy who started doing it and I refer people to him. So there's that, but there's people that want mine because they want the good version. They want my version for the year. So do I have like an event and do I actually like ask people to like pay to a fund, and I'll be like, if the fund gets to this amount, I will release the version for you all, and then you and a how-to tutorial video, and like you guys can go from there. Could do that. I think I'd make a good amount of money doing that. I think I'd get everyone to buy one copy, but they're not going to stop. They're going to want me to do more work.
Right.
I don't know. I'd rather not do anything.
If money was tight, I would definitely. This sounds like a good idea, but yeah, you gotta.
Yeah, money's always tight. So yeah, there's money to be made here. That's why
not as tight as my pussy.
Bam. Yes. Yes. I'll figure it out. I'll tell you what, I shouldn't be an a-hole and not do anything. But this is one of those, if I don't do it right, it doesn't work right. It takes time. I'll have to think about it.
All right.
Think about it. But this has been awesome. I'm gonna post this up as its own thread on the ACS subreddit right now.
Yeah, hopefully people like it, and they don't, then they don't have to listen.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna scrap it too. I'm gonna talk about every single thing at timestamps. It's gonna be a huge thread of timestamps.
Can't wait to see what those look like.
Yeah, I did that once before, and I think that works because who doesn't want to see that, right?
Maybe break it up into like 10 minutes because you did about every 3. That might have been a little.
No, the more the better. Because the more the better. Because if you think about it, it's good for search. So if you want to like search names of people, or like you may as well add another 30-second thing where I'll be like, Like I'm trying to think of the highlights of what we talked about right now. And
Yeah. No,
the,
you can do it. You can do that if you think it'll get more
yeah, I
views.
mean, I remember like a half hour ago where we were like, all right, should we end on Gina? Like, do we want to hit Gina before the call's
Yeah.
over? That was like a half hour ago before philosophical evolution, God talk, and every woman in your family having a really tight hole. Right? So there's a lot to discuss. Yeah, I'll go through it, but that's awesome. I'm gonna end the pod.
Okay.
Do you want to say a shout out to anybody like Jay Hopkins or Jay Sakic or I don't know.
I'll say Richard Parker. You know, try to believe what you want, but try to be healthy. Try not to isolate yourself too much, and try to be a healthy guy, and try to be open to if that you don't have to believe. You can change your mind about things.
I think that it starts, we'll see that out of Richard if he does this with his text. We'll actually visually see it, which is I know that you can't type on your phone and there are errors in what you put up. If you're going to actually make a thread post, you need to concentrate on it long enough and edit it long enough to at least get out of obvious grammatical errors. Otherwise, it's symbolic of out of control emotion that you just had to blurt out and you don't even care to revisit. So
Yeah.
like, so that, so yeah.
Maybe get on some medicine and get some exercise and some sunlight, and
He works out. He works out. I think he said he works out.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't hate women so much. They're not all bad. They're not all good either, but they're not all bad. So he hates
Don't hate.
too much.
Oh, you mean liberals?
No, women.
Is that what you're
Sorry,
saying,
you didn't hear me. I think
women?
don't hate women so much. Yeah.
Right.
No. We've all been wronged by ladies in our life, both men and women alike. And you can't hate a gender just because.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're out for now. I'm ending the podcast. Good luck, everyone. May all your podcasts be listenable.